Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I know you through a little teeny tiny game, a little teeny tiny franchise.
Yeah, it's a small little bijou franchise.
Bespoke indie title.
Yeah, it's a small, tiny team. No one's heard of it.
No, but yes, of course, it's Final Fantasy.
Yes.
And that's definitely what we're going to talk about now is how, because not only are you starring as Clive in Final Fantasy XVI,
Yes.
but also Final Fantasy is something that is in your blood. It's something that you grew up with. And you said that Final Fantasy VIII is one in particular that you had a very strong connection with.
Yeah, I mean, any opportunity to talk about Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy VIII in particular, I will take it. So when you were like, would you like to come on this show? I was like, yes. Let me tell you about a little game called Final Fantasy. It's a very, I feel like I'm in a very strange place where I'm a part of something that has had such a huge impact on my own life. And to kind of see how the sausage is made in a strange way, it's only made me love this franchise more, and the impact that it had on my life before I even got cast in Final Fantasy XVI. It's just been massive and changed my life, and it's I'm on this kind of roller coaster right now, and I don't know when it's going to stop, and I kind of don't want it to. But yeah, it's an amazing game and an amazing franchise, really. Even though we will talk about Final Fantasy VIII, I think I do want to preface it with Final Fantasy fans. Like, I could go to bat for any of these games.
Yeah.
But because I think they're all absolutely amazing. But this one just had a huge impact on my life.
So how did you first hear about it? Because I feel like, especially like in the 90s, like when you heard about a Final Fantasy game was always like different for everybody.
Yeah. So in the UK anyway, the packaging of the games was really kind of obscure. Like we had like the iconic white with simply the title and then the image. And so it was just these white boxes, and I had no idea what they were. I was like, what is this game? And it's like, what is this pretty writing with numbers after it? It didn't mean anything to me. And by that point, I think I'd played like maybe I played like Siphon Filter. I had Gran Turismo, and I had Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 was far too scary for me, so I just turned it off after like 30 seconds. I went, nope. And so I just had this box that I wasn't really doing much with. But my dad, I think I'd seen it in like Official PlayStation magazine, and I went, that looks quite nice. And my dad, I think, kind of on a whim, just bought it for me. But obviously they came in the cases, the really thick cases. They didn't look like other games.
No.
And I remember playing it for the first time and thinking, this is rubbish. This is absolutely terrible, because I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the game, Squall, or Starry, as I called him after my surname. I don't know why I have this bizarre naming of my characters when you could. So Starry, cool guy, had to go on this training mission to get the Guardian Force Ifrit, and or Ifrit, as I called him as a kid. And yeah, I was rubbish at it. I didn't know how to play it. I didn't understand any of the systems. And there was this timer, and I think I played it about 5 or 6 times and just going, yeah, I just like do this bit and whatever.
Yeah.
And then one night my parents were having a dinner party, and I thought, I'll just crack open Final Fantasy VIII again. I don't really have anything else to play. And I finally got past it. And then everything kind of clicked.
Made sense.
Yeah, it made sense, and the world opened up, and that really changed everything, because I was at that point in my life where games, I was only playing at the beginning of games. I wasn't really great at completing stuff, and Final Fantasy VIII was like the first game that not only completed, but I really completed.
Yeah.
I think my clock by the end of it, and this is for an 11-year-old, was something like 109 hours.
Jeez.
Just like relatively in my life, 109 hours was a huge amount of time.
Yeah.
And I remember crying when it was over.
Aww.
Because at the end of the game, they're all back in the garden, and everyone's got the video camera, and Zell's running around. Like, I was bereft, because I'd created such a huge attachment to these characters, and it just changed my life, because I read, but I didn't read loads of books. I liked films, but films were like an hour and a half. And if you think about the amount of time you play these games for, that was just, it was amazing. And I felt like this, again, this connection with my dad because he loved fantasy books.
Yeah.
And I was like, Dad, it's like a book and a film.
Yeah.
You can play it.
Yeah.
And, you know, going from, there's a time before Final Fantasy and a time after. And that was my first entry into it. And then obviously I opened the floodgates and it was it's just like,
Final
oh, there's
Fantasy
more.
everywhere.
There's actually like better ones available to play.
Yeah.
So I got to play obviously 7 and then 9 and 6 and it just kind of went from there and I was completely hooked.
But I think there is something special about coming into the series with 8 as well. I feel like it's almost like this interesting open-mindedness, I think, from playing it originally just like that, you know, because it was so different from the other games, even in the series. And like when everybody sort of complains about the junction system and you're just kind of like, yeah, but it clicked.
Yeah.
I made it work.
I think I made it work. The reason it really clicked with me, and this was kind of like my brain at the time, my way in was that I really liked the GFs. I loved the Guardian Forces and I named them all after Pokemon.
Oh.
Because that was kind of my touchstone at the time.
Yeah.
And so I just probably, the reason, of those 109 hours, I would say probably about 50 of them are just me summoning the GFs every single battle. You know, like an incredibly ineffective way of playing that game. But it was my own way. And I'd not experienced like RPG systems up to that point, really. You know, I'd known to like point a gun or like hit a ball or drive a car. That's really all I'd known. So the idea that I was having a tactile relationship with these people, I was building up these characters and they were becoming stronger through my own actions was again something so revolutionary to me.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Everything about it was new, and that's the power of games and what they can do. And you know, we live in this advanced society now where we're beyond that, but the power of an 11-year-old playing that for the first time, it's just had a huge impact on my life.
Yeah.
And then getting I go on for ages about this game, but like the moment where you would get the Ragnarok and you could fly around and that sense of freedom, this world that had seemed so limited at that point, at times impenetrable because you were at the limits of, you know, where you could go. The Ragnarok was freedom. And I remember going to the underwater research facility and thinking, wow, this is like a secret area that I found. And it was my secret, you know, that I'd found. Everything about that game was so wonderful. And its impact on my life mimicked my own. So like 11-year-old, I really fancied this girl at school. So I named Renoa after her.
Oh.
And I named my friends, you know, like all my friends were in it. It was like, I was playing as my friends. We were all students at this school and it was just a really amazing experience, and I adore it. I could just list so many moments in that game that just mean so much to me. Like the moment where you see Starr for the first time.
Oh my gosh, that cutscene is just so amazing.
And then, you know, the attack on Balam Garden, where you have, I don't know how they did it on the PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
Where you have that mix of CG and your
when
character.
he's running across. Yeah,
That
with
is-
Renoa.
It's so
good.
amazing.
Yeah.
And I think as a technical achievement alone, it's incredible. I appreciate that the battle system now, when you look back, I'm sure, you know, it doesn't really matter if you level up. You can just, you know, get, you know, exchange 100 tents or whatever and you're fine and you can win the game, you know?
Yeah.
But I love it. And as a game, it has stayed with me my entire life. Like I would almost exclusively watch YouTube videos of Final Fantasy VIII. There were like series of, I remember there was a YouTuber at the time who did this like blasting critique of Final Fantasy VIII, just like saying what a terrible, stupid game it is and how it doesn't work. And I loved watching it because I loved it, and his opinions weren't going to change mine.
Yeah.
But I got to revisit the game.
Yeah.
Because he was like playing through it and saying, God, this bit and this person's rubbish at it. It's just awful game. And I'm going, yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And
It's
it
like,
was,
thank you.
It was, thank you. No, it's my favorite game. So it was a delight to kind of even watch people critique it. And I've known people critique it my entire life, and it still just never diminishes my relationship with that game and what it did for me.